right, so you sent over this Finshots article, Will Trump Take Bitcoin to the Moon? And I got to say, even I'm feeling the Bitcoin buzz right now.
Yeah.
Trump back in the White House,
Yeah.
and suddenly he's all about crypto.
Right.
It's wild. But we're here to, like, cut through the hype
Yeah.
and figure out what's really going on.
Absolutely. What's interesting to me is just how drastically Trump's stance on Bitcoin has shifted.
Cool.
Think back to 2019.
Oh.
He was practically denouncing it,
Yeah.
called it not money, slammed its volatility,
Yeah.
even suggested it had ties to illegal activities.
It's almost like he did a complete 180.
Right.
Now, he's talking about making the U.S. the crypto capital of the planet.
Yeah.
What do you make of this sudden change of heart?
Well, it's definitely a signal that we could be seeing a complete overhaul of U.S. crypto policy, and we're already seeing the markets react. Bitcoin's price has skyrocketed over 100% since the start of 2024.
Yeah.
And that 20% surge right after the election,
Oh, wow.
that's no coincidence.
From around $60,000 to $90,000?
Yeah.
Some are even saying it's headed for $100,000 soon.
Uh-huh.
But this article points to something else that's got people buzzing Bitcoin mining in the U.S.
Yeah.
with Trump pushing for domestic mining and deregulation of energy.
Right.
It sounds like he wants to create a Bitcoin mining boom.
He does. And it's a shrewd strategy when you consider how much energy Bitcoin mining actually consumes. We're talking 60–70% of the total cost.
Wow.
So cheaper energy. That means more profitable mining, which could lead to a massive expansion of the entire Bitcoin network.
Speaking of mining, I'm curious about how that plays into the investment side of things.
Uh-huh.
Are we about to see a gold rush for Bitcoin mining stocks?
That's definitely a possibility and something we can delve into later. But first, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room. Regulation.
Okay.
Trump's signaling a complete departure from the tighter crypto regulations we saw under the Biden administration.
He's even hinting at replacing SEC Chair Gary Gensler, who had a reputation for being pretty tough on crypto. Plus, there's all this talk about Trump collaborating with figures like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
It's like he's rolling out the red carpet for crypto.
It does seem that way. This shift towards a more favorable regulatory environment is bound to boost investor confidence, which, as we've seen, can have a pretty significant impact on prices.
Okay, but now I have to ask about this U.S. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve proposal.
Okay.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction novel.
Uh-huh.
The U.S. government stockpiling Bitcoin. What's the thinking behind that?
It's certainly a bold idea. The brainchild of Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill, proposes that the U.S. Treasury buy a whopping 200,000 Bitcoins annually for 5 years.
Whoa.
That's a total of 1 million Bitcoins.
Wow. Let me do the math here.
Great.
At $90,000 per Bitcoin, that's over $90 billion.
It is.
The U.S. government holding 5% of the total Bitcoin supply. That's a game changer.
It would be a massive investment, and the implications are far-reaching.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that the U.S. government is framing this as a digital age hedge, drawing a parallel to their gold reserves.
So they're basically preparing for a future where Bitcoin could rival gold. That's a pretty big statement.
It is.
But doesn't this raise some concerns about market manipulation? Could the U.S. government wielding that much Bitcoin influence sway the market?
That's a valid concern, and it ties into a larger point about the global economic landscape.
Okay.
You have to consider the anxieties surrounding rising U.S. national debt. Investors are looking for safe havens for their assets, ways to protect themselves from weakening currencies.
And Bitcoin, with its fixed supply of 21 million coins, suddenly seems like a very attractive option.
Right.
But how does the U.S. holding so much Bitcoin play into that? Does it make Bitcoin more stable or less stable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? On the one hand, you could argue that a large, stable entity like the U.S. government holding a significant amount of Bitcoin could actually lend it more credibility and stability. But on the other hand, there's always the risk of unintended consequences. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, and it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah. It definitely raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah.
But speaking of uncertainty, we can't forget that Bitcoin itself is inherently volatile.
Right.
Even with all this positive momentum, there's no guarantee that Bitcoin is headed for the moon.
Right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
We've seen this story before, haven't we? Remember the 2017 Bitcoin frenzy?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thought they were going to get rich quick, and then boom.
The bubble burst.
Yeah.
In 2018, Bitcoin lost a whopping 80% of its value.
A lot of people got burned.
It's a stark reminder that this market is susceptible to, well, everything. Geopolitical events, regulatory changes.
Yeah.
Heck, even a simple technical glitch can send prices spiraling.
Exactly. Look at what happened in 2021 when China cracked down on crypto mining.
Yeah.
It sent shockwaves through the entire market. And even with Trump's seemingly pro-crypto stance, there's always the possibility of unexpected policy shifts or unforeseen events that could throw things off course.
So as exciting as all this is, we need to inject a dose of reality here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not a guaranteed path to riches.
Riches.
It's a high-risk, high-reward game.
Mm.
But this article also mentions something called a Bitcoin halving event, which is about to happen.
Right.
Can you explain what that is and why it matters?
Sure. It's a fascinating mechanism built into Bitcoin's code. Essentially, every 4 years, the rewards that Bitcoin miners receive for validating transactions get cut in half.
So less Bitcoin for the miners.
Exactly.
What impact does that have on the price?
Well, historically, these halving events have been followed by significant price surges.
Hmm.
It all comes down to supply and demand. As the rate of new Bitcoin entering circulation slows down, scarcity increases, and that tends to drive up the price.
The old scarcity principle. But the article also drops this mind-blowing fact.
Yeah.
The last Bitcoin is expected to be mined around the year 2140.
A long time from now.
And get this, some Bitcoin might never even be fully mined.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
It's a quirk of the system caused by the halving process. As the rewards for mining decrease over time, they'll eventually become so small that some Bitcoin will likely be left unmined. It's a built-in element of scarcity that contributes to Bitcoin's unique value proposition.
It's like a digital gold rush with a finite amount of gold.
It is.
Speaking of gold, the article draws some interesting parallels between how the U.S. views its gold reserves and how they're approaching this Bitcoin strategic reserve. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a thought-provoking comparison. For centuries, gold has been considered a safe haven asset, a hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty. The U.S., holding a significant portion of the global gold supply, has historically played a role in maintaining the dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency.
So is the U.S. trying to position Bitcoin as a kind of digital gold with this strategic reserve?
Yeah.
Are they looking to establish the dollar's dominance in this new digital landscape?
It's certainly a possibility, and it raises some intriguing questions about the future of global finance. Will we see a shift towards a multipolar system where other countries and currencies challenge the dollar's supremacy? Or will the U.S., by embracing Bitcoin, strategically manage to maintain its position at the forefront of the global financial system?
It feels like we're on the cusp of a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
But for those of us who are fascinated by all this, but maybe a little hesitant to jump headfirst into the volatile world of Bitcoin, are there other ways to get in on the action?
Absolutely. The article actually touches on a really interesting alternative, investing in the companies that power Bitcoin mining. We've already talked about how energy is a major factor in the profitability of mining.
Right.
So these companies are poised to benefit tremendously from this potential Bitcoin boom.
It's like a backdoor entry into the crypto world. You're not directly investing in Bitcoin itself,
Yeah.
but you're still capitalizing on its growth. Pretty clever.
Yeah.
So let's recap. Trump's back in the White House, and he's shaking things up in the crypto world.
He is.
Bitcoin is once again the hottest topic in finance.
For sure.
But the future, well, that's still a big question mark.
It is. There are so many factors at play, and predicting where Bitcoin is headed is anyone's guess. But this deep dive has really highlighted how Trump's policies are reverberating throughout the entire crypto ecosystem. From boosting mining operations to potentially establishing a Bitcoin reserve, the U.S. is making some bold moves.
It makes you wonder, how will the rest of the world react? Will we see other countries scrambling to establish their own Bitcoin reserves?
Yeah.
Or enact similar pro-crypto policies? Could this spark a global crypto race?
It's certainly a possibility. And it's not just about governments and institutions. We're also seeing a growing number of individuals and businesses embracing cryptocurrencies. The technology is evolving rapidly, and the potential applications are expanding all the time.
It's mind-boggling to think about where all this could lead. So to our listener, I think the biggest takeaway here is that this story is just getting started. The world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is constantly evolving, and it's more important than ever to stay informed and engaged.
I completely agree. Keep an eye on the news. Do your own research. And maybe even consider dipping your toes into this fascinating new world. Who knows, maybe you'll even find yourself on the moon someday.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy exploring.